Hey guys, welcome back to another video where this time I would like to show off a game called Ironcast. So I've actually pre-recorded some gameplay and I'm just gonna be talking over it. Just a little disclaimer before we begin. I actually received this as a free review copy from Dietrich's online services in collaboration with the publisher, which at the top of my head I don't quite remember, so a formal apology, but nevertheless I am quite happy to show off this neat little game. Ironcast is kind of I think for me the Ironcast, the main appeal factor was basically the theme, the very much steampunk like theme, and in that you're just basically you're basically in control of a machine. A machine with certain weapons, certain drives. So you can see at the top there's a weapon A and a weapon B, and then there's a drives which is basically sort of related to your walking and your defenses, which you can imagine obviously sort of like your shields and that kind of thing. So basically what Ironcast can be described as is basically like a tree match game. As you can see me matching several similar nodes on the grid right now, and that basically when you match a bunch of these, you basically generate resources which you can use to kill the enemy that is on the right hand side of the screen. So what I've done just now is just raise my shields, and then you can see me just figuring out what to match next. Obviously, like in most tree match games, there are certain nodes that maybe give a boost, and so this power node that I matched just now, and that basically allows you to, like on your next turn, it allows you to supercharge whatever it is you choose to charge up. So you can see that obviously I chose to charge up my shield, and now it's my next turn. So my opponent is taking his turn to walk, and so leaving me to select my next bunch of nodes. So you can see as I've made two fires. I've been firing twice from my weapon A, and the second one is missed, which is quite unfortunate. But you can see me collecting boxes and the ammo. And you can see me sort of just counting how many different types I should take, because basically there's just a maximum capacity for my ammo. And so with that on, I'm aiming to shoot again, but missed again, which is kind of unfortunate. And but it's worth pointing out that if you look in the top right corner, my enemy mech has a 27% with next to that foot icon. That basically means it has a 27% chance to dodge. So naturally you can imagine that basically my opponent just has a higher chance to dodge, but even so 3 misses out of 4 shots is still a fairly high percentage basically. So what I've done just here was that I replaced all one types of nodes with a bunch of others. So what I'm linking up now are called scrap nodes. Scrap nodes are basically like stuff you can collect now, but you can use them later between battles to sort of like upgrade, like or to repair your machine and such. So enough of that. Not some random rambling. I may as well just try and explain some of the features of this game. So basically when you play this game, at least in the campaign mode, it's basically mission by mission, and each mission you'll basically have to kill another enemy mech like on the right, and that's pretty much how it is every single mission. Of course, as you progress, the missions will get harder, and of course after every mission you will get upgrades, weapon blueprints in which you can get new weapons and such. So, and as you can imagine, there is some variety in the weapons, the shields, and everything else that you gain. And there is enough variety to make it interesting enough, but I feel the game could definitely use a bit more variety. But certainly, once again, I must reiterate, the game attracted me initially because of its steampunk theme, which I'm quite in love with the steampunk theme. But if I had to be 100% honest, that's pretty much all the game has going for itself. The gameplay in itself is fairly simple, it's fairly easy to understand, and in terms of strategy, there's also an element of RNG in that sometimes it's hard to see what your opponent might be doing, and the strategy layer is not that particularly deep, and just going back to the RNG, it's also dependent on the nodes and what kind of items you get on your grid, since obviously you have to match them together to basically get the resources you need to pretty much win each mission. So Now, I've digressed again after saying I would just try and explain most aspects of this game. So if you look up in the top middle, you will see the purple bullet that basically is our energy meter for the gun, and each gun obviously has a certain amount of like weapon energy to use. So you can see with me just hovering over one of my weapons just there before, and if you saw the 3 next to the purple bullet, it basically means I need 3 weapon fuel to use it. And it's pretty much the same for the others. So the orange one, you can see the orange lightning bolt back up again in top meter. That's basically used to maybe activate another level of either my drives or my defenses. And the drives are basically they basically get my mech walking, as you can see my opponent doing right now. And what they do is that they increase the percentage chance for the enemy to miss a shot, or your percentage chance of dodging. Increasing your defense basically puts up a shield which will definitely block a certain amount of damage from each attack that your opponent will shoot. So it's like, for example, if you have a higher shield and your opponent is shooting a weapon that has multiple bullets, then obviously more damage will be blocked. But then if your opponent is shooting a single heavy bullet, it may be efficient to have a higher percentage chance dodge. Of course, you may want to do the math on that, but it's probably not worth the effort. But naturally, with me as a mathematician, that's sort of just some of the things I've just considered doing just for the fun of it. So, next one is the blue. You can see the blue snowflake up in the top middle, which I've just charged up. That's called the coolant. And basically, coolant is just needed like a secondary fuel resource to power your weapons. But the problem is, if you try to use a weapon and you have no coolant to sort of like cool it down, you will take damage to all your components. So as you can see right now, I've just defeated the enemy robot and or mech, and gotten a level up which allows you to pick an augmentation or an additional ability. Basically, once you do these campaign missions, like you do a bunch of missions, until your mech dies, and you basically go back to the start. So there's still a bit of RNG in terms of the skills you can pick, and you can see that I've picked up a new equipment and blueprints. So right now, I'm now between missions, and I can head down to the workshop, and I can head. My apologies. I can head to the workshop to get some items, and then you can see me just hovering over the bottom left, just some of the augmentations I have. So you can see I've got a new blueprint for an energy weapon. That basically means that if I have the scrap, as you can see, but as indicated by the gold bars, I can build that weapon. And which is what I do right here. And of course you can see the defense systems, drives, and everything else, which I can definitely upgrade as well. And it's certainly just one part of this game that just gets you to think about in terms of the strategy layer. Of course, I've said before, the strategy layer I don't consider to be all that deep. Some people may disagree or think otherwise, but again, it's in my opinion, it's not one of those games that you're supposed to like really focus 100%. This is more a game that you can play in the background while listening to a podcast or watching a video, because it's like basically within each turn that you take, it's very easy to, just relax a bit, basically. So, and yeah, this is basically the main mission screen in which what happens, and basically you just keep doing missions, and then every now and then you will just get like this big boss kind of guy that will obviously be a bit tougher than usual. So you can see some of the dialogue, some of the pre-battle dialogue happening, and they definitely stay fairly true, fairly faithful to the steampunk theme, especially sort of like in middle-aged London, where it's sort of the languages are so sort of like very appropriate for that kind of period, and basically, just keeping to that theme, but obviously deviating it from it a little in terms of the machine. So now I'm up against a big heavy boss, which actually there was probably something you noticed in the dialogue which now contributes to that, to my opponent not having a full HP. Basically, the type of missions you choose within, I suppose, each round, or no, not each round, basically there is a little variety in the type of missions you choose in terms of the rewards they give, and one of them in particular is actually I suppose you will see in game as a kind of fist, and that basically means is like they basically affect the future difficulty of later missions. So the more that you collect in earlier missions, or basically if you do harder missions earlier, then you've got the opportunity to make future missions easier, which is certainly a very understandable sort of mechanic to sort of like balance out the skill and strategy layer. But of course, you don't really know what your opponent will be wielding or holding until you actually enter the mission and are actually fighting. Just thinking in terms of criticism, any other criticisms I have about this game, there's not really much I have to say apart from Steampunk thing, it's not really that much special, although certainly the game has a lot of what's the best way to put it, sort of like things to encourage you to play a bit more. It's like one thing you may have noticed that after the mission, for example, is like there was a component where I was get experience, and that is sort of like a global experience meter, in which obviously when you level up on that global experience meter, you will get more benefits and certainly more initial upgrades that will help you. So checking out what we have on the screen now, it looks like our opponent is moving, and I've chosen not to move mainly because I cannot really justify putting basically energy into walking, because it's much more efficient to put them into defenses. And if I remember correctly, I have a fairly powerful shield, which right now is blocking 58 damage. So and of course with some of the active abilities sort of helping me out a little, so I've just bumped my shields up to 86. Basically it means that every shot I take from my opponent will be reduced by 86 before I actually start taking damage. So, and as you can see right now, there's also the option to select which component of your opponents that you want to fire upon. So at the moment I've been focusing on weapon A, since my opponent's weapon A is pretty much the biggest threat. And so right now I'm still matching those to try and get all the energy, all the resources I need, but unfortunately this shot has missed. So by taking the second shot, I've successfully managed to destroy my opponent's weapon A, in which it means that he will need to spend some repair points, which I actually did not have a chance to explain. So in the top middle, you'll see the green spanner. That's basically your repair module, and it's fairly simple. Once you have 5 repair fuel or 5 repair nodes, then you can basically repair any component, so weapon A, weapon B, drives or defenses for a given amount of points. So that in itself is fairly simple, but of course if you have a whole bunch of repair modules, then they're really not going to be put to much use. So it's definitely one of those things that is nice to have, and maybe bank 5 just for emergency situations, but otherwise not all that useful, especially if you have good defenses. So definitely we've got a whole amount of coolant and a whole amount of energy to use right now, but not much to match right now that could help us fire our weapons. So we will probably have to take it easy and just bear with another shot. It's quite interesting that the opponent has a lot more HP than us, but definitely we do have the firepower to sort of keep up with it. So you can certainly just see me just trying to think about what to do, since I don't have that many weapon slots. So you can see me hovering over the node multiplying, just thinking, okay, how can I keep myself, a little more active, a little more in the game? So by matching only 3 weapon modules, or what am I doing now? I don't quite remember. Certainly we've got a lot of energy modules at the moment, and it would definitely be useful in sort of just seeing, okay, well, we could definitely get those out of the way. But luckily I remember my original plan, getting a weapon module so that I can shoot a bit more to just knock down my opponent's defenses. And if I sort of like mentioned that because I've now destroyed my opponent's weapon A, he needs to basically repair it. But the other thing I forgot to mention is that once I've destroyed it, my opponent cannot actually use it. So in general, in terms of strategy, it's quite obvious to focus on your opponent's weapon or at least the most dangerous weapon first, and then destroy their defenses. And that's where I feel the strategy layer can be a bit thin, because it's once I figured that out, it was kind of just obvious, and it was just kind of a consistent thing to aim for every round. So some people may think otherwise, maybe some people might disagree, but that's sort of what I figured out so far from my time playing it. And don't remember how long I've been playing it, but definitely now that I've played enough to show you just pretty much most of the gameplay, I don't have particularly any more interest in playing it further, mainly because there are other games that have my interest at the moment. So moving on, looks like we're still pelting our opponent. Our opponent has actually repaired weapon A for a bit, so I'm back to pelting it again, and we've managed to successfully destroy it, which means that we do not have to worry too much about it for the time being. Definitely keeping our shields up high, and it's worth pointing out that in the top left, it's got like, if you see in the top left underneath my profile, you see the Great Battle of Westminster. Those things underneath are just basically like mission objectives or conditions of the mission. So obviously the first one is to defeat my opponent, defeat Commander Rene Durand, and then of course turns remaining before enemy receives reinforcements. That's just basically like a it's just basically saying you gotta beat him in this number of turns, otherwise you're screwed or you've lost the mission. So it's I suppose because I've played enough games to really realize what it basically means in terms of the actual game. It's it still feels kind of shallow to me, but of course people new to the genre or people new to this kind of idea will obviously enjoy sort of the steampunk theme and pretty much everything else surrounding it. So moving on, our opponent is fairly full on coolant. I'm definitely full on repair. Some of my abilities have reactivated, and we are both walking towards each other. It's actually one of the funnier things I think that I felt was a bit odd about the game, in that both the mechs are just walking towards each other, and you would think, isn't there a point where they would just end up meeting with each other? So that's kind of I suppose what would you call it? I can't remember. It's like a break of suspense. No, I'll remember it eventually. But certainly I'm still on fairly good footing. I barely lost any HP, so it means my shields are definitely very powerful and serving me well. It's definitely one of the other things is that once you find your way around the game, you get to understand what the weapons mean and what to use in terms of defense, because basically the weapons come in two types. There is basically a weapon that shoots single strong shot, and there is, I suppose, weapon categories, and the other category would be a weapon that shoots multiple shots. Now obviously weapons with multiple shots, or weapons that basically shoot a scatter of shots like my opponent is doing right now, since it's multiple shots that do lower damage each shot, it's more efficient for me to have a stronger shield up, because then it reduces the damage that I take. It reduces more damage that I take, as opposed to simply just trying to dodge a shot. So that's where I feel the strategy, like, they haven't quite fine-tuned the values, because it just feels like it's much more efficient to have your shields up than to keep your drives up, unless they really do bump up like the evasion factor. But nevertheless, it's still dependent on the nodes you have in front of you, the grid, and what you're able to match. And since you can't really see what's coming on from above, obviously there's still some element of randomness in, like, hoping that you'll get enough nodes to maybe fire your weapon, or maybe enough coolant to ensure that you can ensure that you can use your machinery without overheating and therefore taking damage. Of course, this is still gonna take quite a while, since my opponent still has a fair amount of HP, and for a while I was struggling to get enough weapon nodes in order to actually do enough damage. So you can see I've just fired a weapon with multiple shots, and it may have not been the most effective, but definitely it's one of those things where What's the best way to say it? Sometimes it doesn't really matter due to the nature of the game, in that it's still just easy enough that firing either weapon probably wouldn't have made much of a difference anyway, but it again, it's really dependent on whether you're a min-maxer or you're just someone who wants to play this casually for fun, and I feel that this game will appeal to people more in the latter group of people that, you know, like I've said before, you probably want to play this while you're watching a video or listening to a podcast, or you're just relaxing, you just don't want something that's basically too intensive, so to speak. So we're still matching some more, and admittedly I am running out of things to say, but I would like to at least continue commentating this particular battle until it is over, which from memory should be in a few more minutes. So definitely I've been pelting down my opponent's weapon A, and the defenses are almost gone as well, I'm still close to 800 HP, which means that I'm doing fairly well for myself. Other things that you can see, especially in the left tab that I've had out for a while, there's general augmentations that you can have to your Ironcast or to your mech that will help you sort of just basically give you an edge. And you can also see system augmentations, in which I've got an augmentation on weapon B and an augmentation on my shields, which again are things you collect throughout the missions, and when you level up as well, that can also help give you an edge in battle. So I think one of the things I've forgotten to mention is that the lady that I'm playing right now, she's not the only character, and there are definitely different mechs or Ironcasters that you can unlock to begin with, so that's definitely giving the game a bit of variety to play around with. Of course, it still doesn't do much for the gameplay, but certainly it will give you a different starting point to work from, so certainly a bit of variety on that point, but I feel there's still a little too much homogeneity, or more like lack of variety in terms of the weapons, drives, defenses, and such for there to be any real strategy layer. So taking a hit now for my opponent, a single big hit, but thankfully my opponent is not smart enough to use the stuff that actually matters. So just quickly take a sip of this drink here. Okay, still warm. Been talking for quite a while. I was getting a bit worried that would be too cold by now. So again, by now you can sort of just see how it's not 100% engaging. It's not 100% something that you like to focus your attention, 100% of your attention on. So, and I suppose I would just sort of just fast forward, or maybe not. So, this is actually like one of a very few match 3 games that I would actually personally recommend. And the other one was just, the only game that I can only think of recently was basically Honey Pop, which is, it's Honey Pop. If you played it, you know what I mean. If you don't, well, you will, you will find out eventually. So, I think one thing I've got to mention that is that on the grid, no, I mentioned that already. On the grid, there are certain nodes that will help you link other nodes. Probably the one I mentioned before was power nodes to basically give you a boost whenever you use something. But right now, you can see a little chain link node in the top row of the grid that just basically allows me to match more than one type of node together. So that is something you can definitely use to your advantage during the game. Alright, moving on. So our opponent is down to 1307 health, which at this stage is definitely sort of just being a bit slug, you know. It's sort of like when you're nearing the end of a tennis game, sometimes it feels like since both players are just low on energy, it just feels like they're slogging the ball back and forth, but they still have to do well to try and win the game. So it's definitely not that fun to watch, which is obviously why I didn't do a Let's Play series on this one, but it's definitely a game that I still enjoy engaging in, just not as much as other games. So keeping my defenses raised, and keep using my abilities to the pullers, and now using that special linking node to get some more weapons energy in order to belt my opponent's weapons down, and my opponent down to 802 HP. It's pretty obvious I'm going to be winning this one. It's just a matter of getting the nodes to do so, and to finally, and to get shots that don't actually miss. Because goodness knows, shots that miss can be quite infuriating, especially for those who have played similar games which rely on a certain aspect of RNG or randomness, because certainly randomness is a factor that for some people is attractive, for others not so much, because it's more the lack of certainty that some people may not be comfortable with. So you can see one of my drives is almost smashed, and actually, now that I remember, there's one thing I actually forgot to touch on. If you see the number 3 underneath my active abilities, but on top of the grid, that's basically the number of matches you're allowed to make. Sorry, pardon me. That's the number of matches you're allowed to make that turn. So I'm not sure if there's abilities or such that allows you to make more than 3 matches a turn, but definitely with 3 matches a turn, you can sort of just do enough, or it gives you enough depth to think about the strategy. So I'm still pelting my opponent down, firing once more, hopefully, fingers crossed. No, not quite. Well, we will need more weapons, so I'm matching some more weapon nodes just to hopefully take my opponent down finally, and my opponent's finally down, which means this video should be ending fairly soon, because I will admit, it's probably not the best game to commentate or watch. So that's with him beaten, some post-mission conversation. How saddening it is that yours should be the last telegraph, and so on. So it's there's definitely a kind of backstory behind it, and it's true to the theme, but overall not that engaging in my opinion. But again, some people may think otherwise, and I do not mean to speak negatively about the game. I think it's a solid indie game in its own. It's just lacking some features that would have made it like a really truly polished game that would have basically engaged me fully. Of course, it may well be due to the nature of the game and the design of the game such that this is not the case. So leveling up now, I've got a lot more passive augmentations and Ironcast abilities than I can actually handle, so it's certainly one of the other factors I'll have to think about. So a lot of equipment, a lot of blueprints, and basically leaving me to deal with in the workshop. So I think I will wrap it up there for now. As always, this is as always, thank you for watching. This is Ironcast with a very nice steampunk theme that I really enjoy, because they definitely did put work. However, the gameplay in itself does definitely need a bit of some tweaking, some design tweaks, and maybe a bit more variety, but still nonetheless a fairly enjoyable and not so stressful game to play. So with that, thank you for watching. A subtle reminder that the like and subscribe buttons exist, and I will see you on the next video.